Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legacies. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I wasn't sure what to really expect when, Landon wakes up and it's Hope is looking at him. It's okay, he's up to something super suspicious. What's that about? And lo and behold, he's in the gym working out with Jed, and it's pumping iron. For him, it's yeah, I found basically a safe way to kind of deal with everything I went through with Malivore, and just kind of obviously just all it's his way of kind of I found a healthy way to kind of deal with things. So he's been working out with Jed and everything. It's cool. And you notice that Hope notices the weight. It's yeah, that's a lot of weight. It's you wouldn't expect Landon out of anybody to be doing that. So obviously, initially, Hope is, after what Wade brought up last episode, her suspicions about it rise more and more as the episode progresses, because it's yeah, there's just something not right. The fact that something's kind of off, and then it turns out, oh yeah, my Landon's allergic to avocado. I put avocado in that, and I kept an EpiPen just in case. You look perfectly fine, so you're not Landon. Knocks him out. She wants to talk to Lizzie because she needs Lizzie's help with this whole thing. But Cleo's no, Lizzie's going, but I'm here, I can help. You don't need a witch, you need a friend. And so I thought it was so interesting the entire time, because I was Cleo's acting a little suspicious with the whole situation of how she's taking all of this. It comes from this situation of she's had a very different perspective on this whole monster thing, where it's just kind of oh, maybe you have to go through the trouble of killing. She kind of wanted to find a different way. Obviously, with the leprechaun, she didn't really have much of a choice, but she was just kind of the way you're treating Landon, drugging him, knocking him out. Now you're asking him all these questions or whatever. He can't get past the barrier because whoa, the only things that can't cross this barrier are supernatural, so that means you're a supernatural. It's oh, maybe it's because I'm Malivore's kid, or maybe it's because I was once a phoenix. It's no, you were just straight up a human. All the things that made you supernatural and magical were gone. Because you were just kind of basically a normal kid, which is kind of interesting to know that. When he became human, came back as human, he was just human, so I think that's so fascinating, which is interesting considering the fact is he still is Malivore's kid, in the sense that he still suffered the ramifications of tribrid blood basically killing him like it would Malivore. So it's interesting how that still works, that on many biological levels he is just a normal human, but then he just has the disadvantage of, unlike more normal humans, I'm affected by tribrid blood like my golem of a dad. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. But obviously he's asking him all these questions, which he's being honest about it, so it's he doesn't understand his circumstances. And obviously for Hope, it's I will do whatever I need to get the answer. So there is something I can think of that will kind of make me trust you again. So it's she has him draw his own blood, and it turns out it's black, like mud. So it's initially she's so he must be Malivore. She's thinking Malivore, because now the question is well, is he actually Malivore possessing Landon's body like he always wanted to, he finally got inside of the prison world, or is this something else entirely? We don't know. And I like that, still stringing you along the entire way of maybe you think you got it figured out, turns out you don't. But obviously it's right, I need you to take some of my blood dripping on your hands. Don't inject yourself, just in case you're really you. Because it's she's conflicted, because it's you're not my Landon, but maybe you're still my Landon somewhere deep down inside, so I can't. So he drips the blood, and his arm starts dissolving and almost shriveling away. But luckily they were able to stop it. But Cleo's reactions and stuff made me kind of go, yeah, there's something off about that. But then we find out, oh, he's not... Actually, he's no, I'm not Landon, but I'm not Malivore either. And it turns out, during their fight, for her, it's I just need to make sure you're not, by killing you, I'm not killing Landon. Because for her, it's she figured that's what Malivore knew. Oh, if I possessed his body, this would be the one person in the world she'd never be able to fight, because she'd never want to hurt Landon. Which, ironic and interestingly enough, that was Wade's whole point last episode of right, Landon would never do anything that would hurt you, even if it meant saving you, but it's he would have tried to find another way to kind of do that. He wouldn't have kind of jumped at it the way he did, without hesitation, just so sure of himself. I thought that was fascinating. And for us to find out that he's actually a golem made from the box, on his neck is the... And it's interesting. So Cleo helped her make that that mode, and it turns out that mode is what this version of Landon is. Like, it's like, and that's why he doesn't know what Wade knew. Like, why Wade was like, oh, this Landon doesn't know this, because he only knows what Hope knows about Landon. So that's why, like, there are gaps in his memory. It's like, that's so interesting. And basically she figures out, like, you're supposed to be like in my mind, the perfect version of Landon. That's what you're supposed to represent. You're the part of me that couldn't let go of Landon, now manifested. He's like, yeah, but the fact of the matter is, I'm perfect in the sense that I won't die. Landon was a regular human. He would eventually die. It's like, you can deny it all you want, but you were going to lose him one way or another. But it's like, the moment you activate your vampire side, which I'm so stupid, it still never crossed my mind. The fact is, I don't know what, I'm sure they referenced it. It just never clicked in my head. It's like, right, she isn't a vampire. She's never officially died. She's only like, she's had her witch powers for a long time. Obviously, she activated her curse by accidentally killing a guy in the final season of the original. So it's like, she hasn't activated her vampire side. So she's never been a full-blown tribred. Because I forgot, I think if I remember correctly, that was the reason why it's like, she couldn't kill Malivore, because she's technically, right now, she's not a full-blown tribred. She's technically a hybrid, borderlining tribred. So until she activates her vampire side, she can't actually kill him. Which I'm sure there's also the reservation of activating your vampire side. You know how the vampires in your family have rolled, like your aunts, your uncle, your aunt, your uncle, your dad, well, uncles, and your dad. So it's like, yeah, vampires in general, but like, vampires roll pretty damn hardcore in your family, in a sense of like how, especially don't want to take the chance you might become your father's daughter and just might become the millennia long psychopath that he was, but obviously once again, Klaus had his redemption, but it's like, yeah, that's 1,000 years of death, mayhem, and blood, so it's kind of hard to erase that, no matter how much good deeds you try to do and stuff like that. But nevertheless, I'm sure that plays a part in like why she's kind of, plus like once again, just naturally being a vampire comes with its things of like she's going to lose a part of who she is anyway. It's also like, which that's an interesting conversation because that flows into the MG side of things, which we'll get to later. But yeah, you'll kind of lose yourself, especially like your thirst for blood, like that kind of will kind of consume you in that regard. So especially a newbie vampire like her, so there's many different levels to that. But for her, it's like, I'm not willing to, it's like, you're not the real Landon, so no. Like, this is, you want me to kind of, like, the whole point of this was kind of me to move on. Well, I am, and she ends up feeding him her blood, and he ends up dissolving and dying. Because it turns out the one who was involved in this was Cleo, because, lo and behold, your girl Cleo has kind of been a mastermind. In her own way, she was trying to help Hope. It's like, I was actually trying to help us both get what we want. The fact is, I need you to be a full-blown tribred. And I'm like, why? Because it turns out, well, I think she needs her to be a full-blown tribred to take down Malivore. And I'm wondering, does it have, like, has she been fronting? It's kind of sad. Caleb's not in this episode for this. Like, eventually next episode's going to be like, damn, Caleb fell for her. He fell for the wrong girl. I mean, to be fair, she could be a misunderstood character. We've come across many, many of those. I mean, there's a lot of misunderstood people in Hope's family, but it's a circumstance of she was so focused on Landon, she wasn't willing to see everything else. So to now, Cleo's been trying to like handle things with kid gloves, but it's kind of like, now I'm in a rush, I need to make this happen. So I'm not trying to kill you, you'll come back, and I want you at your full potential, because like she needs her as a tribred, because it turns out that the artifact that they were trying to like open, when she opened it, lo and behold, who popped out of it, because apparently Cleo's been in it the entire time, because we end up finding out, let's circle to it really quickly, when she immediately runs into Leonardo, and it's like, he sees her and she sees him, it's like, that was clear cut, like, she was alive back then, I guess they were friends or something, maybe it's like, because she's like, you don't know what I've been through. She talked about her family's circumstances and what she lost. She makes it seem like it was like a recent thing, like, oh, I but it's like, it seems like that was many, many centuries ago. So it's like, okay. So I was wondering, like, how she's still so young. It's like, oh, because she was young like that at the time, so she was sealed away. I'm assuming because she was potentially a threat or something. Obviously, we're going to have to go back and look at like what Cleo said in the past and extrapolate, and maybe she'll give us full context to a lot of stuff. Maybe we'll find out that there's probably, I think they're probably going to bridge it, so make it so that like there's a parallel between Hope and Cleo, that the fact is that there is something there. Because also like, you had fake Landon, bringing up the fact is that, yeah, you're going to lose Landon like you've lost literally everything and everyone in your life. Your uncle, your dad, your mom, like a lot of your relationships and stuff like that haven't always gone like amazingly either way. So it's like, because like Roman ended up being revealed to be like, oh, who he was. So that was complicated in its own right. But it's a situation where I think, like I said, that's where they're going to go. Like that, we're going to find out Cleo's story, not verbatim Hope's, but I think hers might be as tragic as Hope, probably even more tragic. Because that's usually, I mean, that's where so many of these stories in this series, this universe, are built from tragedy. You know, so. But I'm kind of feeling in the other aspect of this episode is we have Alaric working with Josie because Lizzie left a note as she's going off to kind of fix herself because she's got like, yeah, her control issues and how suffocating she can be, like in a sense that like she wants to have like kind of take complete control over things, and obviously Alaric's trying to work on that too, so that's why he sent her away because it's like, yeah, that's his way of kind of dealing with his control issues. So when the time comes, it's like they're casting a spell to find the necromancer because they start thinking like he might be the one responsible for all this because, hey, he you know, they found his dead body in the prison world, but it's like he never came back. I was thinking like the creature that was in front of him was him, but it's like, then where's the original creature that affected him if that was him, you know? I was like, maybe it could have been somewhere else in the prison world, but regardless. So they're thinking like, oh, like maybe he managed to find his way out. We still never got like a conclusion on why that is, like how that came to be, especially because we find, well, to be fair, I was about to say, I guess it's kind of like how he first came out of Malivore anyway. What did he do? He popped out of Malivore and he was, you know, Ted. He was a human again, not just the necromancer. Because it turns out, oh, he's working at a funeral home. And I was like, oh, he's up. Because I was like, the moment he was playing piano and stuff, I was like, oh, he's probably Ted. I also love that widow hitting on him super hard. It's like, oh, my husband Richard would want me to move. And he's like, Miss. She's like, it's Miss now. And it's like, dude, he's trying to help out and everything. And Alaric and Josie's helping. He's like, oh, thank God. I thought he knew who they were. But it's like, apparently he's got amnesia. I'm trying to remember, did he have amnesia when he initially... I think he did, didn't he? It took a while for his memories to come back in that regard. I don't quite remember. I really don't remember what it was like when he came out of Malivore the first time as a human, as Ted. Which is interesting because that's also like when he talks about, yeah, I woke up in the ice cream parlor. It's like, ooh, two things you hate. One, being Ted. Two, that damn ice cream parlor because... you were trapped there in your normal, boring life, and it ended up being the hell that Malivore trapped you in, too. So it's just like, oh, so many levels of just pettiness on Malivore's part in that regard. But now it's like, oh, he's human, he has no memories of who he is, but Alaric is kind of like, oh, yeah, like, you people don't change. It's ironic and kind of effed up he's saying that in front of, like, Josie, even though he's trying to tell Josie, well, I guess for his argument could be like, no, you're a good person at heart. The fact is that, you know, you were able to fight back this darkness that kind of controlled you. That's not who you are. This is who you are. So maybe that conversation didn't come up, but maybe that's the argument that could be made. But I love that Alaric made him keep like, oh yeah, here's a grenade, hold on to that, and it's like, yeah, if anything goes wrong, Josie's like, I'll put up a magic field or whatever. So it's like, you know, and it's like, you know, she talks about the fact that her and him used to be frenemies when it came to black magic, you know, and everything. And I thought it was fascinating where it's just kind of like, honestly, she thought like everything else in her life right now, Finch, everything with Lizzie seemed impossible. So now it's a situation where like I need to fix things on my I need to fix what I'm able to fix, and this seems like something I can tackle right now. And obviously for, you know, it was actually interesting and very insightful from Ted, where he was basically talking about, yes, the necromancer in me might be getting joy out of you being in pain, but the Ted here in front of me actually feels sad for you. He's like telling her like, so you haven't talked to this Finch person? It's like, no. It's like, do it. Like, here I am. This business, so many people come here to tell their loved ones how they feel, but it's like they're gone. They can't say anything. You have an opportunity because the person you care about is still with you. You have an opportunity to kind of change that. Richard ends up rising up, and obviously his hot potato with the grenade. I was like, oh, where's this going to go? How's it going to... And it's like, Alaric had it. He was trying to put the pin back in. The necromancer, I didn't know whether he was going to sacrifice himself, but they threw it in the coffin, blew up home, dude. So it's like, all right. now Alaric is like, I need the necromancer, so even if I have to go through plan C of torture, but, you know, Josie stopped him by being like, okay, we need, because it's also like, yeah, because you're evil, you're still evil enough to the point that blowing up a grandfather makes you laugh, and he kind of laughs a little bit. He's like, yes, but the fact is, I'm trying to not be that monster you think I am, because if I am really as terrible as you said I was, I don't want to go back to that. And obviously, there's a little parallel to Josie. Like, obviously, Josie's big concern of like, I don't want to go back to being dark side Josie, you know? That's been a big concern of hers, so it was just interesting on that front. But obviously, they're working together because he's like, you know, I want to prove to you I have changed. So here's Leonardo's ghost, because that was actually his plan, because Leonardo da Vinci knew, you know, like, he made the device, so he has to know what it was all about. I love that they get Jed to try and translate, and it's like, I thought you said you spoke Italian. He was like, no, I told you I was in Rome, so I picked up some stuff here. He's like, okay. And he was like, I think, what did he say? Like, arrivederci or something like that. And it's like, I know what that means, Jed. Just go. And he's like, okay. It's just, you know. So that was fascinating. But at the end of the day, the necromancer, you know, Ted, let's get it right. Ted sacrificed himself to make sure that Alaric could get out of there. 'Cause for him, it's like, I served my life's purpose, because like, you died knowing that I had changed, that I was Ted and not the necromancer. You have a mission out there that you have to complete too. I don't think we've seen the end of it. I think Ted dies, but in that moment, he's going to come back as a necromancer, I believe. So even Josie warned us, like, yeah, we're probably going to come to regret that later on if we bring the necromancer back. And lo and behold, I'm sure that's where he's going to go. He's sadly going to die as Ted. Like, Ted is dead. He did have a human sacrifice, and now he's just going to come back as a necromancer, I'm sure. We'll see whether that ends up being the case. I just don't think we're done with the necromancer yet, because I'm sure who knows? Because I'm sure the people who, the like creators and writers of the show, like, have so much fun. That's why they keep bringing the character. Because he had a small appearance in season 1, and they kept bringing him back throughout, and then they brought him back in season 2. And I think he's that. I mean, just because of the tone and nature of the show, you can have so much fun with your villains, and he's like a fun villain to kind of do stuff with. So there's that. There's the Finch and Josie thing, and it's like, right. My sister was trying to protect me, so, you know, but it's also because she knew how much I liked you. I mean, like you, present day included. So, obviously, it's like, you're a werewolf, you don't know how to figure all this out. It's like, that's why you go into Salvatore school. She's like, the school you ran from? She's like, yeah. But I think for her, she even realizes, like, yeah, that was a mistake, because I was running away from a part of myself. I thought I could deny a part of me. Like, I was scared of the magic and stuff like that. But, it, you know, for her, it is a part of her, you know? You know what, actually, in that moment, and then I'm trying to remember, the actress Penelope Mitchell, she had a character that was part of the Gemini, her and her twin brother, right? She's the one that her character got close to Tyler. She ended up, like, Tyler was hurt, and he basically activated his curse by killing her. It was the only way to save himself, and she wanted to sacrifice herself. In that moment, that's what crossed my mind. Because those were, like, I forgot, those were Kai's siblings, weren't they? Like, the other siblings? I don't remember. Well, because Joe was the only sibling left. I forgot what their relation was to Joe, like whether they were like cousins or like, I don't think they were like nieces or nephews. I don't remember what their relation was to Joe, because I remember them being Geminis. I just didn't remember what their relationship was to Joe, if they had one. I'd assume they did, but like I said, I don't remember. It just made me think of that. You know, it's like, oh, here we have a Gemini and a werewolf. You know, it just kind of made me think of like her and Tyler. And the moment they kiss, sparks fly. You know, it's like, oh, has that ever happened before? It's like, no. And it's like, Finch being like, damn straight. So it's like, yeah, things are working out on that front. Granted, now you're going to have to feel Finch in about like, right, so here's all the other terrible stuff that's going on at my school. You know, it's like, I can at least manage, you know, bring myself to go back if I have you by my side. It's like, right. Like the whole time, like, right, we didn't fill Cleo in about everything, even though it seems like she probably knew a lot more than we knew that she knew. That's a very confusing way I said that, but I'm like, dude, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, it's like, hey, need to fill out that roster to that school anyway, because there's a lot of people that are like, we're not coming back. Our parents are pulling us out of this school, so there's that. Then there's the MG side of things, what I thought was interesting. It's like, ooh, that's not good. You healed Ethan. Can only mean one thing. You had him drink your blood. And it's like, okay, so obviously the conversation he had beforehand with Lizzie about the truth, he opens up and he's like, tells Ethan everything about the supernatural world. I get it. You were just trying to protect me, because it's like, I was trying to protect my friends, but now I realize that you're one of them too, so you need to be in the know. I was worried Ethan was going to turn out, once again, I was worried he was going to go down the Matt route, because you kind of, it's a sad day when, like, I mean, you can make the argument Alaric at one point in time was the Matt, but obviously considering like how close he was to you know, Damon and everything, and just everyone in this world and universe, that is kind of like, yeah, he's more positive on the supernatural side of things, in particular the vampire side of things, more so than Matt. Matt was super like, nah, fuck vampires. Like, he was kind of just, you know, he's not Caroline's mom on that, like this, like how she handled things. Like, obviously Matt ran things a certain way. I'm curious, like, now that, like, Mac left, like, who is going to be the new sheriff? Going to have to feel, that's going to be so, I'm wondering, is it going to be someone we know that going to takes over that mantle? Or will it just be, like, someone else are going to have to bring into the fold, or maybe another antagonist who's going to be antagonistic, kind of like Matt was? We'll see. Because you almost forget, like, right, wasn't Bonnie's dad sheriff, or was he mayor? I think he was mayor, wasn't he? I don't remember. Sadly, he ended up getting killed, sadly. It's like, Jesus. Once again, just tragedy all around this universe, around everybody. No one gets a happily ever after in this universe. Closest thing you can get is maybe the Vampire Diaries, but even that's like a depressingly happily ever after in certain regards. Especially when you're considering, like, yeah, a lot of that ending to the Vampire Diaries hasn't happened yet because, oh, a lot of those people are still alive, so they haven't had an opportunity to reunite with the people they love in the afterlife and everything. So it makes it even sadder because it's like, yeah, that ending hasn't happened yet. So regardless, tangents and all that aside. But upon hearing this, Ethan's like, oh, I'm going to be a vampire. It's like, wait, what? No, that's not where we should be taking this conversation, especially from, because we don't know what kind of vampire Ethan was going to be. I mean, to be fair, once again, vampires are like kind of looked upon as like the most sycophant of the supernatural, of the triangle of supernaturals, the OG triangle of supernaturals. Obviously, we've expanded that, but it's like they're kind of looked as kind of like the most dangerous and vile. So it's kind of like they kind of run rampant, kill people, all that. Plus, I'm sure MG didn't get into the whole conversation of like, right, I'm a Ripper. You don't know, that might be something in your DNA that you might be a Ripper, and that's a whole thing we don't need to be dealing with. But for Ethan, it's like, for him, he's like, this could be an opportunity, not only for him to be, like, for him to be a hero, like, he could do so much and everything, because he's trying to fill that hole in his heart from everything that he's lost. Like, obviously, he doesn't have football, he doesn't have his mom around, he doesn't have his sister around, like, his foundation is kind of crumbling, and, like, he latched onto this. So MG kind of did more harm than good. So Ethan's going to go off and kill himself so that he can come back as a vampire. He ends up taking MG's ring so he can't follow. MG puts on a costume to give himself some form of protection. Even under the clothes, he's still burning. I love the whole, like, flashing it across the, like, blurring it, as he says, across the water and being on fire. And so, obviously, the conversation of, like, right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, like, you know, he was like, the fact is I was even kind of thinking about it, but now it's like, you know, I'm going to go back to playing the role of the sidekick, you know, thanks for being my friend. Because him and MG both kind of realized, like, right, at the end of the day, like, I knew Dr. Saltzman was right on some level, but I didn't want to listen because I needed a friend. And, you know, and it turns out Ethan, considering everything he's been through, he needed a friend too, so they found each other. But sadly, you know, MG's like, we're not friends, and ends up wiping Ethan's memory. It's like, I could make, because eventually it's like he can't even be friends with Ethan because he's seen where things go, because eventually their entire friendship would have to be based on a lie, because he could never fully be open to Ethan, and if he was, this is where things could go and things could spiral out like this again. So it's like he can't take the chance that, like, Ethan, you know, but for him, it's like he wouldn't do something right by Ethan. It's like, you're going to wake up, you're going to be okay. Like, you're never going to try and hurt yourself again. So hopefully you also have to consider, hopefully nothing happens to him just, like, by accident in the next couple hours, because it takes, like, 24 hours for the vampire blood to get out of your system. So hopefully nothing happens. So Ethan, you know, he gave Ethan his superhero name, and it's like, yeah, that's what I was going to call you, and he walks away, you know. It's like, so I'm curious, is it not just Josie that's coming back to Salvatore's school? Is MG as well, you know? So also, we don't know, like, everything Lizzie's been up to, like, being away, trying to figure out her control issues, surrounded by other witches, and what that necessarily pertains. And then also we have our, like, ending where it's like the dude takes off everything, because it's like, oh, he has that necklace, and everything. She's like, who are you? Take off the mask. Turns out it's like, oh, it's Landon. Yeah, he's in the flesh. Side note, I love that Alaric's like, I'm going to kill something with this crossbow today. But also, it's interesting, because my immediate thought, like, that was my thought, that was the real Landon. him not saying anything, initially I was like, oh, do you think he's like Alphonse Elricking this in the sense of like maybe his real body was taken away and like he's nothing but a soul under that? But it's like, oh no, in the flesh and blood. So I'm assuming he probably figured like, yeah, I want to keep my separation. He probably wanted to figure out a way of trying to figure out who that other Landon was. That's probably what he was trying to do, trying to keep her safe. That's probably also why he came after Cleo, because he knew Cleo was a danger somehow. I wonder how. Because he did try and come after Cleo before, so that is fascinating. Because they talked about the fact is he's covered in all those monster hides. It's most likely like he had to, like, you know, he was literally in the apocalypse, so he probably killed a lot of things to survive. So I figured as much. Like, when Landon comes back to Hope, he's not going to be the same Landon. He's going to be basically a war-torn veteran. It's an interesting and complicated comparison. Kind of similar to how Klaus was when he got, like, time travel to Vietnam and what that did to his character, what it kind of did to him and everything. He found love, but also, like, it changed him in many ways. I think the same thing for, kind of happened for Landon. So it's going to be interesting to see what changes he goes through, getting filled in more about, Cleo's story and what that's all about. Like I said, I'm curious to see how Caleb feels about this, because I'm sure they're going to get his reactions next episode. But just curious to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Finding out about this artifact and why Cleo was sealed away and everything. Also, like, her connection to Leonardo, because it wasn't like a adversarial thing of like, oh, no, it seemed like, oh, like, long time no see, old friend type of thing. But because she might not have been the original purpose for it. Something or someone else might have sealed her away in there for something. Maybe, once again, we know Clark is connected to this device. He's kind of followed it all over the place, obviously. So it has some connection to Malivore in some shape or form. Once again, we'll have to wait to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. Hopefully get answers. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.